The rain started before Julian finished his second bottle. By the time his black G-Wagon pulled into the driveway of the Greenwich estate, the sky had completely surrendered. Water poured down in thick sheets, blurring the white pillars of the mansion into ghostly shapes. Julian smiled. He loved storms. They made him feel untouchable. As the headlights swept across the front yard, something caught his attention. A lone figure stood near the curb. Julian squinted. It was Elena. She stood beside a dented sedan, the same 2014 Honda the judge had generously allowed her to keep. The trunk was open. She was trying to fit a large cardboard box inside, her hands trembling, her trench coat soaked through. Julian leaned back in his seat and laughed. "There she is," he said, turning to Sophia, "the tragedy queen." He slammed the horn. The sound ripped through the rain, making Elena flinch. The box slipped from her arms. Books spilled across the wet asphalt, pages soaking instantly. Julian parked slowly, deliberately. He stepped out of the car without an umbrella. He wanted the rain on his suit, proof that even the weather answered to him. I felt invincible. Thorne Logistics stock was climbing like it had something to prove. Financial blogs praised Julian as a visionary, a man who had cut emotional baggage and refocused on pure profit. Julian believed every word. On November 2nd, 2023, he stood inside his corner office on the 42nd floor, Manhattan stretched beneath him like a conquered map. Floor-to-ceiling windows reflected his tailored suit, his Rolex catching the light. A god surveying his kingdom. "The Vanguard team is here," his assistant said over the intercom. "Send them in," Julian replied smoothly, "and get me a coffee, black." The men from Vanguard Global entered, polished, serious, unreadable. At their center stood Charles Sterling, eyes sharp as cut glass. "Julian," Sterling said, skipping pleasantries, "we have an issue." Julian smiled. After the divorce, Julian Thorne felt invincible. Thorne Logistics stock was climbing like it had something to prove. Financial blogs praised Julian as a visionary, a man who had cut emotional baggage and refocused on pure profit. Julian believed every word. On November 2nd, 2023, he stood inside his corner office on the 42nd floor. Manhattan stretched beneath him like a conquered map. The handcuffs were tighter than Julian expected. His tailored cold, suit, unforgiving, heavy with consequence. He screamed as they dragged him toward the cruiser, insisting on his innocence, threatening lawsuits, shouting names of politicians and donors. But none of it mattered. For the first time in his life, power didn't listen. November 12th, 2023, Manhattan Detention Center. Polyester scratched his skin. The orange jumps.
May 14th, 2024, the night before sentencing. Julian Thorne sat alone in a cramped studio apartment in the Bronx. No penthouse, no skyline, no silence broken by assistants or deals. Just a rattling radiator and a cracked mirror. The man staring back at him looked unfamiliar, thinner, older, hollowed out. His expensive suits were gone, sold to fund a defense that had failed him anyway. His phone lay face down on the table.